That's funny. To me, it's nonsense. Yeah, it totally is. Yeah, my kids. Yeah, they don't know it. So yeah, that was funny. What's funny, I also used to like make a point. Oh, I got it. The table was she asked. All that 10 years or so. Yeah. I've seen those too. It was so like sad sitting with his daughter and he'll be like, here's how I say this, and she'll say like stuff.
And Ashley's like
somebody standing I was like, I'm gonna give the rest of my speech some brain. Yeah, so it's like hold off and sit down, like it just goes right in her out. I just gave you so yeah.
He's doing too much. Two of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like
I can, JJ. Can you hear me? Yeah, it isn't clear that anybody in 214 can hear us.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Which one? Oh, that one. Yeah, the presenter. Okay, great. So all the presenters know that's your happy. Yeah. Thank you, JJ. Were you running the meeting? I sure am. Okay. Yes. Overflow can go of the boardroom. Are you aware of all that? I did. Okay. Okay. Because we're tight. And I'll let this slide to up just in case. I don't. We have a I just walk over there. So, but it's yeah.
I can see myself. Right.
No, I like us. Was it today? Was it, oh, and yeah. Yeah, okay. She said something. Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. It's 3:30, so, Gonna just go ahead and call to order the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, Johnson County. It's Thursday, October 9th. And, we have the agenda packet and our, CACC agenda items listed. So I call the meeting to order. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Anybody? Public comment? Yes, please. I guess if you just want to stand. Yeah, that would be great. Do we have a sign? They already got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. We'll have it right now.
That's okay. Take your time.
So, like, can everybody hear me if I speak this loudly? Okay. So this is a brief portion of my, public comment from, the 7th to City Council. I want to inform everybody about something that has been, pertinent to what I have been talking about both here and at City Council. On September 26th, Biomed Central released a study that found COVID can cause tumorous cancer development. And this means that COVID inhibits the cell's abilities to repair itself and prevent itself from replicating damaged cells further. And so far, there's been absolutely no attempt at mitigating this in both our holding facilities and just any public service building at all. COVID's been going on for 5 years, nearly 6 at this point, and I have had no success in telling anybody about anybody listening and making material actions about how this is devastating our community and how systems like these, our holding facilities, are specifically like, you cannot actively prevent respiratory illness in holding facilities. It's impossible. That's not what they're designed for. And as long as these holding facilities keep going the way that they are going, as long as we are not taking public health into account with holding facilities at all, we are not only endangering the incarcerated people that we hold in these facilities, we're also endangering the larger community through the staff members that are the vector between incarcerated people and our outside communities. So please, I would really appreciate it if we did not build an entirely new jail, especially when crime rates are going down. But if you have to account anything in your budget, if you are not accounting for public health measures such as HEPA filters in every room, mandatory vaccinations with medical exemptions for all staff members, all incarcerated people, and mandatory masks for all staff members and incarcerated people at their choice, you are actively endangering our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we will go into item B, CJCC business. Item number 1 is an update of CJCC focus group. And
Good afternoon. I think last time we talked about the focus group. So if you will recall, we did a mail survey, and in that mail survey, we had a question if respondents wanted to participate in focus groups, and 89 people said yes. So we worked out and revised our contract with CSSI to conduct these focus groups, and they actually happened yesterday. We had a total 18 committed, 17 showed up. We had 3. They broke the groups down into a stable yes, a stable no, and a probable to kind of get that flavor of where people were. They had a working script of about 5 questions that a subcommittee of this group worked on, if you'll recall. At the last minute, we revised the joint facility conversation, so it was clean just for Johnson County. The people who attended were paid and accepted. They were held at the PBC's offices over on Jefferson, so we didn't want them to come here again, trying to keep a neutral, facility. I don't know much more other than that they happened, they went well, and now it's time for the researchers to put all the information together. I see here on the agenda, we should talk about next steps and timeline, and I'm still hammering that out with Cassidy. They have taken on a few more projects since we started this. So it'll probably be November, December when they wrap up basically the data from the mail survey and the focus groups and come back and present to the guide. But just FYI that it happened. We're almost done, and what we expect to hear from them in the next month or two. So I can take any questions, but it went as planned. So.
Can you repeat those numbers again? You said 89 people were interested, and then you said some other numbers.
Yep, so when we met in August to refine the script, they said that their sample size was 89, so 67 from the mail, 16 from the web, and 6 from the phone. So if you recall, we had various modes for our survey, so that's how they got to 89. And they said generally in a focus group, they'd like to keep it fairly tight, 6 to 8, so clearly they went with 6. So they had 18 scheduled, 6 per group, and just had 1 no-show, which is really pretty good actually. But they've been an incredible group to work with. I know we work with them in other aspects, so can't say enough good things about them, but yeah, that's it. So you know what the people said? They said it was a lively group and they feel like the people wanted to know more. I know we've hit the headlines lately, so not surprising, but so I look forward to it. Yeah.
How long was each session?
1 hour.
1 hour.
1 hour. That was the original plan. I don't know if they varied from that, but it was 5 questions. The quick facts, I think is what we called it. I think the sheriff produced some actual facts to keep them on track. Like if they were asked a question, the moderator wanted to be in a position of being correct, and that they also had his notes item to answer the questions factually, so everybody's hearing the same thing. So yeah, they ran it really clean.
Can I pause for a second?
Yeah.
Do we have, I just saw it popping up that they're having a problem hearing the meeting on Zoom.
Oh, I see something on chat. Melinda Leon, I think I know what's happening. I'm not sure if it's just me or everyone on the
And anybody else? Yeah.
The audio quality isn't great, but I can hear you folks.
Okay.
I'm not
Alright.
sure what the microphone situation is.
It's the ceiling.
Okay.
Ceiling.
So I know some of us carry better than others.
Yeah.
I'm not a great one, so I apologize, people on the Zoom.
So Melinda may be on your end, but yeah, it looks like Bill can hear. Okay, just wanted to check. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, any other questions about the focus groups or the timeline? We can kind of look at next steps and timeline all together. Any other questions or thoughts?
When do we anticipate getting the results of the focus groups?
November or December, more than likely. They're balancing a couple other research projects that came on. And I feel that the committee was a little bit okay with a little bit more longer timeline for this piece. That's why I said we'd be in December, if that's still okay. So I'm waiting for them to respond to that November, December.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Good questions. Anything else? It sounds like we've got the timeline covered. People can hear it, looks like Melinda figured it out. Okay. So yeah, it sounds like we have, next steps, timeline. Let's just get on to open discussion, I guess. Is there anything folks want to discuss? Since we met last time, the board has decided not to do a joint facility, which is a change from what we thought we were headed. So I don't know if there were any questions or thoughts on that people wanted to share, just because that does obviously impact what we were talking about. I mean, there had been a whole other study done that was, what the facility looked like and where, and now that is obviously going to have to change course. I don't know, Brad, did you want to say anything about any of the conversations that you've had, or?
I mean, the big, obviously now it just changes to where. That's kind of the more pressing question. And that's becomes a complicated answer because now you're talking likely acquiring private property. So now we can't talk about that publicly. So, it's definitely something we are working on. I've got a couple ideas. We've got some discussions that are appropriate to be shared, but just know we've got a couple irons in the fire we're looking at. Hopefully have some movement on it here the next couple months and see where we land. It doesn't change the fact we still need on the same side of the site, that we identified in the original study about pushing over close to 15 acres on the high side of what we would need to accommodate the footprint, parking, growth, and all those kind of things. So, yeah, more to come. So if you know anybody that's got 15 acres, want to let go of, happy to talk to them.
And there was a question about whether that needed to be in Iowa city limits or not, and we got an answer on that, which was because it's not a joint facility, it does not need to be within Iowa city.
Correct.
I just wanted to clarify that was a question. That being a county seat, it was a joint facility, but now we're not.
That's correct. I can think of 4 or 5 offhand, jails across the state that are either not in the county seat or not even in city limits of the city. Lee County, Wyatt County, Marshall, and Jasper all are either not in the county seat or somewhere in like rural parts of the county. Yep.
I know that was a question that was had. Yes.
I'm curious if this changes the design at all that was shown to us, just because that was going to include space for the Iowa City Police as well as the.
It doesn't change the design of the jail side of the house. Now it just makes the scope of the law enforcement side much smaller because we're talking about accommodating just the sheriff's office. But no, not the jail side of it was never something that was combined. It'll be combined with Iowa City. So it doesn't change anything about jail booking or anything.
Good question. Any other thoughts on that aspect of it? I figure that was the biggest change since the last night, so it's probably good to discuss it.
Yeah, sorry, that's the question.
That's great.
So what will the committee have any role in, discussion about the site? And I just think about, out in a rural area that's far from public transportation, probably has different implications that one is on the bus route.
Yeah, I mean, it's still something we'll need to be discussing in here as we go forward, and that is something that's on our mind too, is the transportation side of it. And I suppose at some point, depending where it lands, we'll have to have that conversation with Iowa City about a bus route or changing how that works. But yeah, definitely, we gotta make sure this is accessible.
I was gonna make a comment about that when you said rural, because I've heard stories about people just being like, they get out at like 5, they let out 5 in the morning in jail and they're way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we're not talking Morse. Because I still need reasonable access to the courthouse. So I can't go to Oxford or something. It would still have to. And utilities are another thing we have to think about too, because it's a big building, so it's going to need water, sewer, electrical access.
Actually, on that, that's something that I've been thinking about too, because you said that you need to have access to the court. And obviously our courthouse serves lots of different types of, functions in terms of who gets seen and for what. I know in Supervisor Remington had brought in some examples of across the country and the state of combined court and, county attorney and sheriff aspects. And when we were, I think in Dallas County, they had a court room in the jail, which would make it easier. Yeah, which one was it? It was the one courtroom.
One for initial appearance.
Exactly. Yeah, just to kind of help streamline that, make it more accessible. And so I don't know if it's, maybe reasonable given the county attorney's office and where they are located now. Obviously, it's good for everybody to be closer to the court, and the county attorney's office is expanding. We've had lots of conversations at the board level about where do we, what do we do with the expansion of county attorney's office? How many floors? We're the Midwest One building right now. It's really luxurious and fancy, but also, just curious of thoughts into making a co-located facility. I don't know if you.
So in the original concept, when they're in the Shive study, there's a courtroom integrated into that. Obviously for initial appearances, but also it opens the door to other proceedings that we could do. And ultimately, I would like to reduce the number of times we're going back and forth in court.
Yeah.
And it does have a separate room in there for depositions also. I also think, especially if we do wind up landing, let's say on the periphery of the city somewhere, I do think it's going to force the court to look at doing more virtual court appearances. I think we have to. I'm open to the idea of even adding another court, but just remember, you kind of know the dollar amount to attach for every square foot you want to add there's the cost. But having one courtroom alone is going to help out a lot.
Well, I'm just thinking what we're paying for the county attorney's office right now, and we're the renters, right? And so that expense is increasing, I think this year, next year, 26, I think we're going up. We have to renew. Yeah, we have to renew. And so, well, I don't know the cost savings, I guess, from,
I mean, to some extent, the public voted on this. We had a proposal to combine the facilities, close Capitol Street, do it on the back side of the court, where we used to own those houses and now sold those houses. I mean, we had a couple different options there. Public said no. We needed to do something for the courts, so we've started the plug. I mean, I don't know what we've spent. Have we spent $120 million on the courthouse so far?
I think.
So, to some extent, when you've invested 20-some million in the courthouse, I'm not very interested now in moving the courthouse. Although certainly a courtroom or two makes a lot of sense to me, but in terms of like moving the courthouse, I think that's a non-starter. And the public showed absolutely no interest in it.
I have a question.
yeah, please.
So, I mean, you're worried about more courtrooms. I mean, if COVID taught us nothing, instead everything can be done virtually. So we don't necessarily need new courtrooms. We just need maybe better, ways to do it more virtually. You don't have to go to court every time. You don't have to transport a prisoner to court every time. You can do it virtually, unless there's a problem with that somehow. But I didn't think there was a problem with it during COVID, so.
Yeah, I think that's what.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, and I agree with you, but that's not my decision, so.
And there's a lot of procedures that are not legally allowed to happen virtually. They weren't happening in COVID either because the courts were actually shut down for the most part in terms of hearing the trials and stuff. So, and defendants have a right to confrontation and all of that, and it's face-to-face at that point. So, and I think that's how it should be, frankly. So I think some of the stuff, we already do a lot virtually. Like they do initial appearances now, like virtually from the jail, unless you get signed out and then you come in person in the morning. But that never used to be the case when I started delivering from the jail. So I think we've done a lot. I don't see this, like, we should not count on that as being something that would be calculated in terms of the days. I will say the way we do things in Johnson County in terms of court has changed a lot because supervisors will know from your extensive tours of the courthouse. They now handle class D felonies in district associate court, which they never did before. So there's courtrooms that are super, super busy. Then the district courtrooms are less busy. So maybe it's a couple courtrooms that handle certain cases. I don't know. It's not, I think we should, I agree with Raj, the whole thing was rejected 10 years ago twice, but also there might be part of it that we can do that makes things more efficient. Yeah, everything's on the table.
When I oversaw criminal justice services in Boulder County, we had a courtroom in the jail with the unit I oversaw, which set bond recommendations for the judges. And it was really beneficial to have that courtroom in the jail for initial appearances, not just for all of the staff, but for the inmates as well. So I would highly advocate for at least one courtroom in the jail. I think it works really smoothly. It puts people all in the same place. So yeah, stuff.
And there is one in the.
Yeah, it's in the design already.
Yeah, since we were having to go back to, not square one necessarily, but since things were kind of changing up, I figured there's an opportunity to talk about, adding a courtroom or something like that. And also consideration with the county attorney's office, but it's true, that it did fail twice. But this is discussion time. So all ideas back on the table, I guess, in some ways. So, anything else folks wanted to discuss about, the changes, anything like that?
There is a timeline in the packet, I think, that was looks to be revised, and that was, item number 3. I didn't know if somebody wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
I was trying to get there too. Or maybe
Like
it's
the-
different, I don't know.
The overall
Timeline, did we change it? Did we update it, the timeline?
Yeah, I took out the stuff that had the city involved.
Got it. Wait, I guess the only change would be maybe December, maybe if I can focus with results, 2026, I can go for that thing.
Yeah, so you're talking about the deadline for events, 2026?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, so we have August 26, 2026 is the nomination / ballot language due to the auditor. And then October 19, 2026, early voting starts, November 3rd, obviously, is the election day. In 2025, we've hit all of these, they've had, we got the September, yeah, and then October, November, we already talked about that, yeah, so. Yeah, I mean, our big August deadline of next year. So, but it always comes faster than you think. But so it's good to keep ahead on her. Any questions about the timeline? All right. Let's move on to C, other business. Item number 1, community partner programming. So I just wanted to ask some of our partners in the community who do some types of programming services with folks that are incarcerated currently, and see, especially when we're looking at space needs, what potential space needs some of our partner organizations will need if, in fact, we were to start doing those types of programming. We've got obviously a good idea of what the jail and, the beds and, we have that kind of thing. But I think in terms of programmatically, if we are looking at what are we doing with folks that are in the jail, obviously it's different than prison. I mean, this is a shorter timeline and, our partners know that. So I've asked a few folks to come talk to us today. I will say Iowa Legal Aid could not make it, so I will see if they can come another time. And also Fred Newell with the Dream City. I had a conversation with him today, and he would like to present in November about their fatherhood program. Yeah.
So be about 30 years ago, I did veterans education classes in this jail. So you might want to talk to, well, it's fixed judicial.
Yeah, that's right.
You may want to chat with them about whether they'd be interested in doing that again if they had the space.
Yes, thank you. I do. I think you mentioned that before, so I'll reach out to them. And then
Can we just put AA to the possibility of pushing groups in?
also a great idea. And then who would be?
It's tricky to know who the best.
What about the CSR?
CFR.
They do well. Yeah, I mean, it's usually someone a little different than have the AA or NA groups though.
They have a list.
Yeah, they'll have the list. And a lot of there's not like a head of
Sure.
yeah, head of the NA. It's kind of just reaching out to somebody that does outreach and is willing.
Project. Great.
And for OWIs, you have to do an eval within 10 days. 10 days of growth, so you get 10 back in. So it's regular. Also.
Like having CFR come and talk.
CFR, yeah, and they used to do evals in the jail and COVID happened and stuff, so that's definitely.
And then
Would be a priority.
Yeah, another thought, and I'm not speaking for them because I'm not on the board anymore, but Nami Johnson County might be interested in having some peer support specialists. And do some peer support services with them. And so I think that for the next couple meetings, I'm just proposing that we set aside, each organization has been asked to just do a 10-minute presentation. And so for the next couple meetings that we have through the end of the year, we can just have a running, if you want to reach out to folks and then we can just coordinate if you send it to me or John or, Kate, like your sheriff, the county attorney, send it to somebody and then we can coordinate it. I will reach out to these folks and make sure that Fred's also included, but as things come up, just know that we want to hear from the partners. So whoever you think should be coming to present, it's an open door. We want to hear from everybody.
You may want to also check with the other city laws.
Yeah.
I know that there are probably Christian and other groups that would be interested as well, but the prayer takes a little extra space.
Yes, I can reach out to them, but Crush, which is, their primary location is in Lynn County, but they do your recovery coach.
If you wouldn't mind, I
I
have
always have
a
that.
fight list right now.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that, and I'm pretty sure that can be great.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to you.
Yeah, off the list. Thank you. Yeah, so as folks think of them, please send them our way and they'll get it coordinated. So with that, as I mentioned, each organization's had 10 minutes and they really are just answering 2 questions, what programming and then what space needs. So I will invite community to come up first. And it sounds like you can control things. Is that right, Marley, at this? Okay.
Kind of thing you want around, I don't have a digital.
That's right, you said that. We have a paper copy, JJ. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Oh, great, thank you. So we'll do community first. And I apologize for those online, we'll just have to email this out separately. You have the topic under. Yeah, so Sarah, you want to?
Sure, so,
You gotta be back.
we're primarily focused on crisis intervention, both, mental health crisis as well as, emergency financial support and economic crisis. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is global crisis response. We are available for dispatch to any location in Johnson or Iowa County, including jails, 24/7, 365. When Drew and I set up the programs in out of Foundation 2, we did respond in the Lynn County Jail, and we do still respond in the Lynn County Jail. We also responded in the Benton County Jail. That was done as part of the Stepping Up initiative that I chaired, which was also something Johnson County is coming on to, but I don't think we have a formal effort going anymore in terms of stepping up. But that's something that if all we would need is a small private safe space with, line of sight, for us to meet in. We frequently will get requests from family members or attorneys, and right now there's just not the setup for us to push global crisis into the jail, but that's something that we'd love to be able to do.
You say small, are you talking? Like this room, half, office size?
Like they could fit 3 people, so
Office size.
yeah, like an office size. And that goes for the other services I'm gonna talk about, so our space needs is minimal. The most important thing to me is that it's private, but there's line of sight.
So staff,
What?
like for jail staff, line of sight?
Yeah, like just so somebody has, it can even be camera, but just so there's some awareness of what's going on in the private space. The counselors, just for some of you that might not be familiar, trained in stabilizing mental health crises, providing resources, conducting suicide screenings and assessments. That's one of the expertise of community. Drew, I always like to sworn for him, but he's considered a national expert and consistently goes around the country on suicide intervention and prevention, and that's an excellent resource within our community, and I think we should be using it for sure. And as a result of screening, that often leads to safety planning. And those safety plans are just things that we work with people on, what will keep you safe. Who are your support systems? What will you do if you're feeling unsafe? So that folks know about what that plan is when they're in crisis. It can be hard to kind of wrap your mind around that without it laid out for you. And then follow-up care, which is one of the most critical components. And one of the things that stands mobile crisis apart from other crisis interventions is it's really critical after you've intervened in a crisis to have regular follow-up, whether that's on a phone call, telehealth. It's never in person unless they actually ask for a mobile crisis again. But that follow-up could last 6 months. It's really determined by the needs and We check in on if they've made connection to their therapist, to a prescriber, to a doctor, if there's housing needs, you know, anything that they identified in that visit, we're following up to check with them, see if there's connections. The other thing that Mobile Crisis could really be helpful with is if the jail social worker is aware that somebody is going to be released and in a state of crisis upon release, they don't have a support system, there's nowhere to go. That would be a great opportunity for Mobile Crisis to try to meet that person there upon their release, go into a private room and kind of talk with them about what that looks like, try to, you know, de-escalate that mental health and anxiety they might be feeling, and then connect with practical resources. Which leads me to the next thing. The one thing I'll say about emergency and financial support is that I would want to make sure that we're not duplicating stuff that reentry already does. So when reentry presents, we can talk about that. But these are things that we do that are available. So we provide temporary mailing addresses, which are important for job and housing applications and can be huge barriers if people can't provide a physical address. That's something that we could actually push in and work with people on to provide prior to release to help set them up for successful reentry. Same with birth certificate and identification assistance. We offer this to the community now where we help get their photo ID, social security card, birth certificate, all those things that they may have lost along the way, don't have, and are barriers to employment and housing. That's also something that we can push in and start the process prior to release. That's something that I also oversaw in the Boulder County Jail, and it was really successful to do that. And the outcomes were great in terms of they had what they needed when they were released to do the things that they needed to do.
Do you also help with like Medicaid?
Yeah, that was something that we did, like Medicaid. Some folks we did WIC, and we do that now in the community. So that was anything that we do in financial support at community, we could technically do in the jail pre-release or at release.
So I'm just curious, this, do you envision this, the referral would come from like Ben, the social worker at the jail, and say, these 3 people need this, or?
I think the likelihood is we would see a referral from either Ben or an attorney. That seems to be where, and sometimes, you know, there might be, someone at the deputy at the sheriff's office that identified that it would be helpful too. So then prescription assistance, and this, you know, when we're talking about mental health and that aspect, this is huge because we know how many times people get released from jail without their medication. And so we can help get set up with a prescriber. We can even help get appointments set up prior to release if they don't have an active prescription, and we know that like they have meds in jail, but they're not going to when they get out. I know a lot of things have been done around this, but we have wanting to be able to pay for it. So cost is the barrier, the connection to the prescriber is the barrier, any of those things we could help with. And then deposit and rental assistance. That, you know, especially for our folks that are being released and they don't have a place to go and they're in recovery, you know, trying to help with rental assistance and deposit assistance is probably going to be a better route to go than say shelter house for somebody that's in recovery. And so looking at those unique situations and what might set them up for this for success. And then making sure people know about our food assistance so that when they get out, they're not hungry. We can do all sorts of things there. We can literally bring a bag of groceries that are things that are easily openable if they don't have a place to live. If they are going home or to a friend or family members, we can deliver groceries there if they have transportation issues and can't make it into the food bank. So lots of different things that we can do on a push-in basis, either just prior to release or at release. And again, same space needs. So if we just having access to Wi-Fi or a computer would help with specifically the emergency and financial support. Is there anything you want to add, Drew?
No, I mean, I think pulling back, I think one of the rules was trying to plug individuals with chronic mental illness into the newly designed mental health system. So that's also a role that crisis services play. The state has a care coordinator. that are now operating, and so not sure how they work entirely, but we're part of the roller coaster. It's beautiful new system we have is to plug individuals into that system so it can shine and all of that. So individuals coming out of we're looking at kind of transitional periods being important in our work. So transitioning out of the psychiatric unit is a transitioning out of jail, something like that. So that's kind of a critical period for crisis, but we are working with this new larger system. So as a no wrong door entry point, so crisis services.
And I think, keeping in mind that risk of suicide is really concerning post-release from jail. And so the more that we can do to push in and set people up for success, make them feel like they have supports, they know where to call, the better, hopefully they'll be more successful. They'll reduce recidivism and we get them hooked up with what they need.
Lieutenant, you want to talk to the point about meds at release?
Sure.
Can you kind of explain that?
So our nurse Courtney, she takes care of all the medications, and most of our prescriptions go through Hy-Vee Waterfront, and we get those in the inmate's name. So it's in a prescription bottle. So when they leave our custody, those meds are sent with them.
Right.
So we try to make sure that we don't leave anybody hanging, and they are set up before they go.
And do those prescriptions usually have like refills on them, or are they prescribed by a provider in jail? So they'd be in a situation of they have those meds, but they're going to need to meet with a prescriber and get another prescription.
It goes both ways. So some of them, a lot of our people are already established at the University of Iowa. So our PA from the university just gives us, enough that they think that it'll cover while they're there, and then they can follow back up with the U. If they're set up with somebody else, usually they try to give us at least 1 or 2 refills, so that when that person gets out, they can go to Abbey Mental Health or wherever to get reestablished. So we try to make it so that nobody gets left where they don't have something.
And this is one of the resources that I think a lot of people don't know we offer,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I wanted to put it on here, because it's important, and people's medications are super important, and so I want to make sure we spread that word that there is assistance. I don't want a $10 copay or even $100 copay to get in the way of somebody getting psych meds that are going to help them stay stable, out of jail, safe, everybody else safe. So it's something I just wanted to put on the radar.
Thank you, Sarah and Drew. Any other questions?
This is kind of a discussion for another time, but just want to put it out there. When we were planning guidelines, Matt Miller and I visited in the guidelines that we had on X, and they were like, we asked them, what would it take to get set up here, and they were willing to bring somebody this way to talk to us about it and get that going. But for those of you that might not be familiar with it, it's where still packaged medications, prescribed medications can be donated. For example, when someone dies, with medicines that are unopened sometimes, and they are donated. They go through this whole classification system with they're accredited through a pharmacy organization, and we have pharmacists classify it. Some of the medicines have a criteria of who can be distributed to first, through some. And those could be but most of it then becomes available. It can be done at an organization level, or it can be done on an individual level. And I just, for future, like I said, something that I think that community could certainly benefit from.
I have one comment. The idea of having a temporary mailing address before you leave jail is such a huge benefit, because we see it on our end. These are folks that maybe they get out of jail, they can't go back to where they were before, and then they aren't getting important legal documents. They don't have a phone, and maybe we figure, we try to help them out, and it's already kind of been too long. So knowing immediately before they leave that they'd be a place that all that stuff could go to, I think would be really, really beneficial for folks.
Yeah,
getting a job, housing, absolutely.
Yeah, they often miss like their Medicaid paperwork or something came in about TANF or WIC, like all that stuff they're missing when they're in jail and it causes a lot of issues with sentencing. You said there a lot of things not going back to the place they were before, so then all that just gets lost and it can take a long time to sort out.
Other questions? It's really helpful to hear all the services that you all provide and the space needs, because that seems pretty doable. Sounds like just an office space with some line of vision or cameras. Thank you. So up next, we have Kirby Learning Center. Everyone is here, so I'll let you go away. And JJ, it sounds like we can advance your studies. Thank you. You can go right to with your notes here. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, we can see the whole, you're on the presenters. There we go. And you can just go right down to if you want on your own. So you're good. Better you than us. I also wanted to say, maybe to the comments, because you had sent Scott County, their community college, like their programming in the jail is extensive, and we can send out the link to the page. Their website is incredible. I think they list like 15 or 16 programs that they provide, and one of them is some of the stuff that Carla and her team provide from the workplace learning perspective. And I was like, well, we should definitely have Kirk. I mean, we have an incredible resource right here in Johnson County. But so yeah. You can go to slide 3, JJ, it sounds like. Yes, yeah. You can go to slide 3. Perfect, thank you. I'll just do a little overview of what we currently do, but knowing, and we can be flexible and adapt and try and adjust if needed to try to meet the needs. So we are competitive. We've been competitively selected as the provider of this special service for our area for many years, decades. And that includes Johnson County. We do high school completion, which for that program we do high set testing. You probably heard of the GED. That's a brand like Kleenex, and in the state of Iowa, we use the high set brand. 5 tests there that they need to take in order to get then that credential. We also do English language learning services as well. And we're currently in Johnson County. We're at the Coralville site here, the perfect Coralville site. We're at Hope House, and we also offer online as well for those that need that. And we are also here at IMCC in a separate, different program, but we're at both state and St. Honor regions. We are familiar with working inside the security area. Last year, total throughout the Kirkwood service area, we served 1,939 students. About half were learning English and about half were high-set students. And just as an FYI, we're estimating 300 to 400 students who want services in the county but are unable to get. So just thought I would throw that into there. And a lot of those are English language learners that service. We did have 211 graduates last year, and those would have been individuals that completed all 5 of those high set exams. Should have wrote them down. It's writing, reading, math, science, and social studies. Yeah, I always forget one. Yeah. And then we do have a really solid program. Just want to share that we have some of the highest performance in the state of Iowa, and we also very much exceed our federal goals. So we are tasked with making sure 47% of our students have a measurable skill gain. That might mean passing the high set, or to oversimplify, it might mean that they move from a 9th grade math to a 10th grade math, and we have 62%. And we know a lot of our students actually might move from a 9th grade to an 11th grade math. So a lot of students can to, but they only count once. So this grant also allows, and then kind of also allows us to do some other adult basic education activities where we combine
some services together. So if they need some basic math and reading or English language skills, along with some civics education, workforce prep, like helping with resume or how to apply for a job. And then some very short-term occupational skills training. And so there's some programming we do where we are able to braid all of those together. And that we got be of interest as well to folks potentially. All right, that's just a quick summary of what we do. Any questions? Yeah.
Question. Those students who work services that are able to do that, what kind of barriers are
it's more on our end that we do not have enough funding. So we have federal and state funding, and then Kirkwood is not required to, but Kirkwood contributes about $600,000 to $700,000 on top of that. And with that all together, we just do not have enough funding to serve the demand that we have there.
Yeah. So you have like a wait list or something that you
kind of
reach out and advertise.
We do sort of have a wait list, and we've adjusted how we handle it because it is very difficult to manage a wait list of that size. I will say it used to be higher, but over the last few months we have seen a little bit of a drop for sure in the interest of our English language learning students. And then I will just mention too, we don't do any advertising. And we think if we did some advertising or some targeted outreach, especially to groups that maybe don't have their high school completion, we would probably see more. But because we're maxed out, we just don't do outreach.
So a lot of the things you offer are these things that the person could do like remotely. Is it all like online education?
We can flip to the next good question. Yep, I would. In a second. We do offer services in a couple of different ways. We do like direct classroom instruction. That is the ideal method. We're live in a classroom with an instructor and students, and they do specific, and we assess our students to say, okay, you're at a math level 1 because you're testing anywhere from very low, like kindergarten up through 5th grade or so, 5th grade, 6th grade. That would be like math level 1. We get 10 of them, have them all together in classroom, just like we were used to if you went to traditional, right? And 1 to 2 hours of instruction per week in that topic area is what we do currently, 4 days a week. That's how flexible. This is just what we currently do, but we can be flexible on that. And then every 10 weeks, we reevaluate where they're at with skills and what their skill level and move them up. Or they might be ready to access test. That's one method that we can do. We also have that independent learning model. So students pre-test as well. We determine what level they're at. Then we assign them work assignments and online learning modules that align with that skill level. And then we have set aside typically 2 days a week where we come in for 3 to 4 hours at a time, and that they have an instructor in there, but they're working independently. So there might be 10 people in the room, but when you're math level 1 and you're working on math today, and you're at math level, you're writing, and you're working on that, you're at one level, you're writing it, and that instructor will come around and help. They might pull you aside and say, oh, let's learn something on the whiteboard, and I can help you for 10 minutes to learn the concepts, but then you're back to working on it. Our online, which I did not put up here and I should have, is more like the classroom direct instruction. It is live with an instructor. We don't have anything what's called asynchronous, where you just sort of watch a class independently that doesn't have live instruction. And then you can maybe check in with an instructor. All of our online is all live with an instructor from 6 to 8 p.m. or from 9 to 10 a.m. or whatever it is.
Tell me about class size.
Yep. So we ideally like to have classes if we're going to do that classroom direct instruction. 10. We don't like to go too much below 10 if we can help it. But if we're not paying, if for some reason we were paying, we can really run it whatever size you want. We can go up to 20. We go up to 20 in a class. We've even gone a little higher than that. So if there's a huge demand, and there's some in the classroom that's 24, we will put 24. Over 24, but I think you have it to the 20 on the next slide.
Did you want? Yeah. You go to the next slide.
Yes, please.
I think it's one more.
Or one.
Do one more. Yeah.
One more not.
We'll be good. I've had a lot of that.
There it is.
Okay, so one, here would be minimum space needs. I would say if we were gonna do not the direct instruction, but more of the, that independent study, which I'm not sure with numbers and where people would be at, keeping in mind, it takes time. It would take us a little time. We have to pre-test people, get them to understand what they need to do, how it would work, get them assigned stuff, etc. Some folks may be, you know what I mean? And so if we did in more of the independent study, one classroom that seats between 10 to 20 students would work great. If we wanted to do more of that direct instruction with instructors teaching and having classes leveled, that would be, I think 2 would be better. So anywhere from 10 tables and chairs for students being set up is just great. We don't need special anything, we don't need special desks. Tables and chairs for students, 10 to 20, whatever the classroom would hold, an instructor station and chair, a computer for the instructor, and Elmo, we like the Elmos with overhead, they're like a little overhead projector that attaches to the computer, a whiteboard, projector and screen for TV or whatever you got. If we also do need to do testing with students, and we do like some of our instruction would be using technology. So under technology, we have put that in either 10 to 20 iPads. We could get by with 10 more than likely. Some type of secure storage and charging system for them. An instructor computer, which I did take it up there as well. I did not list this, but internet, some type of internet, for like a white, in prisons we call it like a white list of websites. Yep, and then a small amount of storage. We do have some materials and instructional items that we, so one to be able to store iPads, and then just.
And Carla, when we had met, you had talked about like potentially students could start here and then have an account that they can get into online to still continue their studies.
Yes.
To kind of finish out their programming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, obviously there are shorter stays than prison.
If they were here and they got started, say they were in for PDs or whatever, and getting started, we would be like, come to our Coralville site, keep going online, let's get you into that next class here in Coralville, or to the online classroom, or participate in that online module we signed you up for, which we call Central Ed. And so that we would be, like, we would kind of be reaching out, we have the folks up in Coralville, all of them to be like, hey, first out, come on over. And also, I hate to say, but we know some of our students are probably from Coralville and they end up within the jail that comes to. So, and they could potentially just continue and keep working on stuff and then jump back in with us.
So does that lend itself to that independent, learning more?
I do.
I think it would be hard to start 20 people at one time. They be at such different points in their
that's where we
incarceration.
If we're gonna do, so it all comes down to numbers. So for example, we have we've got probably 200 students coming in maybe for high school completion from Coralville, let's say, just in the morning from between 9 and 1. And so we have enough students that we can test them and we group them. So we can say, oh, we got 20 that need NAP 1, 15 that need NAP 2, 22 that need NAP 3. And so we've got enough numbers that we can group them and do that direct instruction. I'm not sure if we have those numbers to be able to do that inside the jail. And so that's why I do think that independence model would be that.
Is this all, tell me how what's the cost? Is there a contract? Is this tell me how?
Yeah, so, that gets difficult, yeah. But we can definitely map that out for the direct instruction all year long. It would cost approximately, I'm gonna say about $90,000 to do that for the year for the direct instruction. And that would be, I'm going to have to get back to you because actually, let me take that back. So I feel like I need to dive into that more because I'm using an English language learning number and I feel like it would be a little different for our high staff.
Or we're talking more than one.
Per student, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, per student. My gosh,
no, I don't think that's.
No. So if you Just help. I feel like, so please do not take this as like, okay, it's gonna be 90,000. I do feel like because it's high school position, I need to get a little bit, I need to get my hands around a little more. We do some of this with ESL a little bit more, where we have some folks pay for those classes and we know how to price those out. So for ESL, it's about $90,000 and that would be 80 seats at a time. And then we put students to somebody who drops out.
And that's helpful, and I just wanted to sort of, there's a budget we have to think about going forward. Anything we're talking about adding, and there's, what's the cost of doing it, just to prepare ourselves for it.
We will do a little homework on what it would cost for high set, because I'm like, what would that be? I need, so we'll check into that. And I had another question. I thought it was funny. So we're in the prisons, understand that very well, and work from there, and that's been all male. And so I don't know what the male female ratio is. I don't know that they would all be together in the same classroom. No. Okay, so that's something too that I would sort of look at and sort of goals for groups.
And that's a kind of a consistent feedback we heard as we did some tours. They talked about, they had one like, I wish I had two. And if anything, because of that right there is man, but also it just becomes, I'm sure it's 4 people in agenda today, but there will be a lot of people. And so I think in the end, the challenge for us is you have to schedule.
Yeah, and I mean, to the budget, question, that's why I was also asking, what are the space needs? Like the iPad, like, I mean, we definitely need to just get a general sense too, what is, what are the specific requirements, because it is education.
I will put together a little cost plan for this when thinking about that if there would be separation of female. I've had the technology at Jungle because for sure that I and for sure the staff.
Great, well, thank you. Thank you for a lot of information. And I know we typically try and end within an hour, but if it's okay with folks, we do have Inside Out Reentry here, Michelle, obviously we're part of the committee. But I do want to give you the full time. Do you want to, are people okay with going a little bit over and we can have Michelle present or I think that would be the best if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, that's so fun.
You should have 5, yeah. So we out early.
Yeah.
So I will turn it over to Michelle then.
Well, for those who don't know who we are, here at Inside Out, we support folks with significant criminal legal system involvement. So we're helping people coming out of incarceration, returning to the community. I will say, I've spoken to a few folks about this. Not everyone in the jail automatically is eligible for our services because we really work with that sort of significant legal system involvement portion. With that, we serve about 300 individuals a year, just kind of in scope. We help with employment, housing, getting connected with community resources. We offer weekly peer support groups, case management. We correspond with a lot of individuals in the jail at present. The ultimate goal of helping people come out and stay out. What we would like to do in the jail is really flexible in a lot of senses. I spoke with a lot of my team about, we love meeting with people, but we're also very small and under-resourced and heavily, like a lot of organizations, but coming in at least on like a weekly basis where we could do a group. Now, we do groups currently at Hope House, so we have a lot of familiarity with like going into incarceral settings. But we have really a wide variety of what we can cover because we already do so many different groups already. So we do groups that focus on personal growth and change, goal planning, coping skills for anxiety, stress, anger management, healthy relationships, financial literacy. We also have workshops on rental preparedness, so helping people figure out what does it take to find housing, what credit score do you have to take, how do you apply. We have workshops on securing employment, resume development, job interviewing, a lot of stuff that maybe other community partners would be able to cover as well. We also have an acceptance commitment training group that we could potentially do, which focuses on emotional regulation, increasing awareness, dealing with negative thoughts. That's obviously a little bit more of an intensive group. And we have all these materials and all this stuff at a hand and can be very easily pivoted based on the needs that we identify in the moment in the jail too. Because if we're going in regularly, we can maybe see some trends of this group, maybe we need to shift and focus a little bit more on that to really help them prepare for their release. In addition to doing a weekly group, it'd be great to be able to meet one-on-one with folks. We provide intensive case management, and we already get referrals from the social worker in the jail for new folks, and we already work with a lot of people that are already there. So at present, we've had a really good arrangement with Ben that we will call him and he'll help us connect with people. So we already know people there that they're working with, but if we can sit down with them and say like, hey, what's going on? What do you really need some support? How can we arrange? I mean, we see folks who unfortunately lose their apartments while they're in jail. And it's like, if we could help them, coordinate stuff to reach out to the landlord, or if they're going to prison, how can do you need phone numbers to turn your utilities off so they don't stay on for 6 months, things. And a lot of this, we already know a lot of the folks in the jail. So it would just be having a private space that we could sit down and talk with them. I think when we think about sort of like the space needs, a lot of our groups in the community get up to about 20 people. And we usually sit in a circle is a little bit more of an approach rather than like a classroom. So having a room that would have the flexibility that 20 people could be in, chairs sitting around in a circle. And then, private consultation space, similar to what Sarah was saying, where maybe 3 people, could sit in it. And that would also be, as somebody who's gone into facilities, both prison and like work release, making sure that they're in a line of sight of staff in a way that's best for everybody. Because obviously I'm familiar with PREA and how things work, and you want everybody to feel comfortable about going in a space. And I've unfortunately, in some scenarios, been in environments that just isn't conducive for staff or folks. And so I don't know what the layout of the jail would look like, but one that like a staff member doesn't have to like spend a really long time walking somebody to a room that pulls them from their job duties and stuff. It's just situations I've been in the past. Yesterday, I got to go to the statewide reentry conference in Des Moines, and I think one of the things that was really impactful about that is there's so many cool programs across the state of Iowa that are happening, and a lot of them are very unlikely groups. So, when the vision of like, what could you do? We couldn't do anything in this jail for a while, but now I almost feel like it's a field of dreams moment where it's like, if you build it, there are going to be people that are going to reach out and want to come and do programming. And the cool thing of hearing that Scott County can accommodate up to 40 scheduled classes a week is what their website says. I think there'll be a lot of groups that we may not even think of when we're brainstorming or talking about that will come and say, hey, we have this curriculum. I met a ton of faith-based groups that have like really legitimate evidence-based curriculum that they're doing in various parts of the state that may even be in this community that we don't even know about. And so I think it's exciting. And I think that there's a lot of really great potential with the space of like what can be done. So I'm really glad we're having this conversation because, I've been doing this for a while, over 7 years now, and I've really found that reentry is about community and connection. So it's like the more they can connect, the more groups they can connect, even if there's people doing slightly duplicate of services. I don't even see that as a big concern because they may just connect values-wise more with the group than have one. And so it's just having the opportunity that then when they release, they know they can go talk to Bob over here. It just makes such a big difference. So I'm glad we're having this.
Thank you for saying that. I think that that's really important that when we talk about the growth, I think that is what we're going to see happen is all these opportunities for programs and things that, we've got people up will snowball over the years. And so I think making sure that we have enough space to grow into the programmatic stuff is really important.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Any questions or comments from Michelle?
Well, this is kind of a question, I guess, comment for everybody that presented, but I know in the 2 jails that we just visited, there weren't, specifically designated spaces. They were communal spaces that are then shared. And so there's a lieutenant, I think, that was keeping track of basically a calendar. This group's in here then, this group's in here then, and then there were also some smaller rooms like the kind of ones you're talking about where it's more one-on-one type stuff, but the rooms that were more this size or maybe a little bit bigger than this even, it was kind of a calendar schedule. Is that what you would expect? And is that what you've done anywhere else?
It's helpful too, and it's really regular, because then people, I know a lot of people are in and out of in the jail setting, but they get to know when someone's there.
Yeah.
So if you've got a consistent time every week, it's easy for us, and then I think it also is helpful.
Probably easier for the jail staff.
That's the only way it's gonna work for us is
Yeah.
on the schedule. I mean, jails have to run on a rigid schedule, for everybody involved. So, yeah, the hard part's gonna be pulling down. You need a full-time job. Somebody.
I'm also wondering.
I was just to say, so to that point, wouldn't it help to have more classrooms as opposed to fewer? I mean, seriously, I think 2 sounds like too few, given all these things.
And potentially different size.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a couple like smaller meeting rooms and, the classrooms that are maybe.
We never heard anybody say they had too much space.
Right, that's a fact.
And you think about where they can be really bigger,
Yes.
the walls.
Like this, right, big, yeah. I wonder too, I mean, should we invite somebody from Scott County who does some of the scheduling for the programming to even virtually attend? I don't know if you have any contacts over there or.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I mean, it just might be nice to hear if they're doing 40 programs, how are they managing that and what were, what's the genesis of it? How's it operating?
Their population.
Well, their jail population is a 400 bed facility, so it's somewhat scalable.
Yeah, I mean, they're taking a bunch of federal prisoners and stuff that we don't think.
Sure, but still, I mean, just some of the logistics of it's kind of insane. And yeah, it might just be good to get, if you wouldn't mind, would you not, that'd be nice for somebody.
Take care of it.
Thank you.
At Boulder County, it literally was one person's job. It was all they did.
Full-time job.
Would manage the programming, the schedules. And what they did was they used someone from our department, which was the county department, criminal justice services, not the sheriff's office, to do that aspect for them. They obviously worked closely with the sheriff's office. They were housed at the jail. We don't have that kind of set up in our county structure, but it was someone's full-time job. And I think we were offering about 20 to 25 push-in programs.
That's really helpful. I mean, I think when we're thinking about budgets, it's another thing to think about is that. And so if we are wanting to go a deeper programmatic, direction, then we would need to think about for the full-time job. So that's really helpful. Thank you, Spirit. Any other thoughts or comments, questions? It's been so helpful. Thank you for coming and talking about what you all provide. And it looks like I've got a list here of folks to reach out to, and then again, these next couple weeks, or a couple meetings, we can just kind of plug 3 or so in. Sounds like a pretty good 3 or 4. We probably need 4. Anything else?
Well, yeah, actually, I think it'd be interesting to hear from the jail staff, not today necessarily, but at some point, like with the staffing we have. Let's just imagine that we had 3 small rooms or 3 small rooms in a big room, or, what would it take for you, to get people in and out of them appropriately? I mean, obviously in the current, you can't think about the current jail because you wouldn't have the line of sight and everything. But in a new facility, like how much extra work or different work would that be? Because that's part of our consideration as well.
So we can put that as an agenda item. Very for staff about utilizing the programmatic spaces. Great, yeah, good point. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I will go ahead and say that the next meeting of the criminal justice meeting is scheduled for November 13th at 3 p.m. and volunteering at the That was